Hello and welcome to another Warcraft 3 audio commentary. This is ScryMind, and this is going to be a 1v1 game, Orc versus Orc on Secret Valley. And it's going to be a pretty goofy strategy from both me and my opponent. I do a little bit of trolling in this game, and I was really distracted about halfway through this game to probably near the end of it, actually. So, not going to be the best micro from me. But at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and start us off with a song from my friend Jake. And to get us sort of in the mood for some really sloppy play here. So, but at any rate, this game is on Secret Valley. I'm the purple player, actually spawned at the top right. And my opponent is the green player spawned at the bottom. You'll notice that he is not building a barracks at all at the moment, which sort of suggests he's going to tech, which is a little bit bizarre on such a small map. There are some things that you can take advantage of with the Blade Master on this map that can sort of allow you to coast. There's two shops in the center, so you can load up on circlets, boots of speed, and there's some very easy null wardens that you can kill next to fountains, and get items that could be circlets, could be other useful items, gloves of haste, claws of attack. So, and you can also go for these ogre magi. Actually, it's a pretty aggressive strategy to go for that with only a blade master, but it can be done, as you're going to see. Though again, I don't really think it's the most efficient. If you have like one or two grunts, it's probably going to be way easier to pull that off, and you're going to take, you're not going to be risking quite as much. But again, the benefit, of course, of not going for any grunts in barracks is going to be a faster tech and stuff like that. Now, what he techs to, maybe sort of a poor decision. We'll see. But anyway, I'm going for two barracks, a Tauren Chieftain, and I'm going to be sticking at tier 1 for a really long time. I really just intended to do sort of a silly strategy in this game, and I've sort of done this strategy many times in different game types, and again, with varying degrees of success. Grunts are pretty solid tier 1 units. The Tauren Chieftain, of course, is a pretty solid hero. He scales pretty well. He regenerates health pretty well. Shockwave allows pretty good burst damage, or if you want to go stomp, that's pretty useful as well if you've got a mass of units. But anyway, he's sort of trying to harass as he's only got the one hero. Meanwhile, I am running around here trying to creep, and why he didn't sort of immediately try to go for this camp sort of is beyond me. I feel like this would be the next logical camp. Maybe this one, but I think he would have seen me run to that one. But anyway, I went for this gold mine. And now I'm going to go down here to the Fountain of Help. And the reasoning for that creep pattern, of course, is you're going to take a lot of damage at this camp no matter what you do at tier 1 and 2. So then you can run to this healing fountain and sit there and get free healing. Meanwhile, he's going to go for the other ogre magi, which he is going to be able to do pretty easily. And again, I'm going to be able to do this camp relatively untouched, as you can sort of manipulate the creeps to switch targets and run your units around, and they're getting free healing. So, and you notice ring of protection +2, not that great, but again, not terrible either. It's going to help my Tauren survive against any focus fire and all that. So I'm actually I already threw up a war mill. I'm staying at tier 1 really way longer than any reasonable high level player would. Really in any game type, but specifically solo. Because it's going to sort of allow the opponent to get a take advantage, and in the mirror match, that can be a little bit risky to do. Now again, he's doing these really sort of aggressive creeping patterns, and again, his fast tech has left him way behind in the unit count. If we count it up here, I've got 7 grunts, and more coming on the way from my base. And he's just now getting these 2 Wind Riders, so if I'd have been a little bit quicker, maybe if you wouldn't have had that tower, I maybe could have stopped his second Wind Rider, actually, but I decided to go for the tower first, as it's going to be easier to kill with lower hit points and lower armor. But Anyway, here's sort of the issue here for me sticking around after taking out the Voodoo Lounge and the Watchtower. Now he's got the 2 Wind Riders out, so that's pretty much doubled his DPS, I would say. Sort of a ballpark, probably doubled his DPS. I don't have anything to deal with those Wind Riders right now. The Tauren can't hit the air. The Grunts are not going to hit the air, obviously. So I stick around, and I do destroy his Bestiary, and then I Town Portal out, and luckily I get most of those Grunts. The one of them gets killed right as I TP out, so that was just sort of really frustrating. And this is about the time, somewhere around here is where I think I was getting a phone call, and some other stuff was sort of distracting me. So not gonna be the greatest example of micro for me for the rest of the game, basically. But again, the strategy wise, it's still pretty much a toss up. I'm getting headhunters, of course, to counter any potential air that I have actually seen at least 2 Wind Riders so far. And he's down to 1 Bestiary, so he's really limited on what he can build. He can't really mass Wind Riders at a 1 Bestiary. It's going to sort of take a while. He's probably not going to want to mass Raiders either because I've got a bunch of Grunts. Raiders really only going to be good against buildings, and again, if my army's sitting there in my base, even then the Raiders aren't going to do that great. Plus, if he wants to use Raiders, he wants to get Ensnare, so that's going to take some time to research, which again is going to limit his unit sort of output. So he's really sort of in a bind here, and he runs in here, and this is sort of a big mistake. My base isn't exactly great to sort of me get around inside of the base, but in terms of him getting out of the base, it's also pretty bad. And these burrows are pretty well positioned, so they can pretty much hit everywhere around the base. He lost 1 Wind Rider there, but sadly I missed the block with these peons. I thought they were blocking that exit, but they weren't actually. So he gets out. I made a little troll comment, welcome to the jungle. And anyway, he gets out of there, so I sort of embarrassed myself a little bit there, but I feel pretty confident at this point in the game that I'm going to win, just based on like the unit count, which again is a little bit misleading sometimes because I've only got tier 1 units. Well, I do have upgrades, 1/1 upgrades on the Grunts and the Headhunters actually. They share an armor upgrade, so it's probably most efficient just to get that armor upgrade first, and maybe potentially skip the other upgrades. But again, once you reach like 50 food, I just pretty much decided I was going to power through to, just a mass army regardless. So, but also did get the upgrade, so which is going to be useful as I have a lot of units. So we're going to have another battle here, and you see he's limited. He's got these Wind Riders. Headhunters are incredibly effective against Wind Riders because they do 200% damage to them based on the armor damage type, and the Raiders take extra from the Grunts, and neither of those actually do extra damage based on armor. And that was a terrible shockwave. Again, talk about the being distracted, but and again, not really focusing those towers ASAP. Pretty silly, but so again, not exactly the most efficient or the best decision to fight, at his towers with his army there, but I still feel pretty confident that I've got enough units to sort of overwhelm him here. So, and part of that is Headhunters are just way more cost effective heads up against Wind Riders. And again, like I said, the Raiders don't do extra to any of my units either, or my heroes. So the Raider, of course, is going to be a support unit, and massing it is probably not going to work out too well. Now, again, if you have mass Raiders and I've got a bunch of Grunts, sure, you can ensnare and hit and run and do all that jazz, but hit and run the base, of course, but in terms of like defending his base, not really gonna be all that great. And again, I do have a bunch of Headhunters, so even if he ensnares the Headhunters, they're still ranged units, so they're still going to be able to attack. So anyway, I'm really sort of limiting what he can do. Once again, he's stuck on this 1 Bestiary. Even if he were to get Spirit Walkers, I have a bunch of Headhunters which do extra to, Spirit Walkers when they're in physical form. And now I've knocked out his other Bestiary, so now he can't build any units. So now his economy, and he can't buy items since he doesn't have a Voodoo Lounge. So his economy is really sort of not helping him. I mean, not that you don't want gold and everything, but in terms of what he can actually do with his gold income, pretty much nothing right now. He can go buy some items at the Goblin Merchant, but and again, I'm sitting here fighting these burrows. Once again, this is not not the most clean game at all. Best case, I would back up, 1 inch or whatever in terms of the game space and avoid all these burrows and everything. So he does manage to kill a bunch of units, and he's got level 2 on his Shadowrunner. He's got level 3 on this Blade Master, and he's got a greater healing potion. Unfortunately, so he can pop that, and he's gonna just sort of go bananas on these low hit point headhunters. But I do manage to pull us around on his Shadow Hunter, and now he doesn't have any items to help him escape. So his only hope is sort of break him out there. Doesn't get the job done. And again, it's not a big deal that I lose units here. Obviously, you don't want to just needlessly lose units, but he's down to just his hero. So if he kills 1 or 2 more headhunters, no big deal. I'm not exactly sure why I pulled back. I should have definitely realized I was far ahead, but I didn't really, like I said, I was a little distracted. I didn't really realize that I knocked out all of his production there. So, and again, I did only have, a handful of grunts and headhunters. So I just was going to wait a little bit and, creep this dragon and, heal up, and then go back with a much larger army. Again, in terms of incentive, there's not really a big incentive for me to go run and fight him at his burrows and towers. I'd much rather fight him on open ground and go ahead and take advantage of the chance to creep. I'm almost level 5, which is going to be very strong. I get level 2 Shockwave, or level 3 Shockwave, or potentially level 3 Endurance Aura, but almost always you're going to pick, in a solo game at least, definitely going to pick Shockwave or Stomp as your primary skill. Just because the difference in damage and sort of effectiveness from each point into Endurance Aura is not really quite as drastic as the big damage jump from Shockwave. I think it's like, I want to say it's like 5% movement speed and 5% attack speed or something per level. So while it obviously does help in terms of the big jump in damage from Shockwave, it's not nearly as much. So anyway, I'm going to roll into his base. Once again, I'm fighting him at a bunch of towers, which is going to give him a chance to sort of hang around this game, way longer than it really should have. He loses the level 3 Blade Master there, and I'm lining up some pretty good Shockwaves here. I hit a bunch of Peons. I hit a Spirit Walker. But again, I've got a bunch of Headhunters left. He's managed, thankfully to his base, from his perspective, he's managed to kill most of my Grunts, which are really the threatening units, oddly enough, because they do better damage against buildings, they do better damage against heroes, and they're just more tanky units. So once I get down to Headhunters, I sort of stall a little bit. He can sort of camp the towers. If his Blade Master was out, it's very easy to kill Headhunters and everything. But again, he just doesn't have the army. You notice he's only got 38 food. He's got enough resources, but I've been destroying burrows and everything, so he's sort of hurting there. And he doesn't have his hero out yet right now. So in terms of what I really need to do right now, I should recognize that the Blade Master is dead and go straight for the altar. Maybe kill these units, but getting that altar destroyed, it's at like 33% or so hit points. So that really should be the priority. If that Blade Master can't come back out, or if he's got a Tavern it, that is going to be devastating to him. But what I end up doing is just chasing these units around sort of foolishly, and he does get the Blade Master back. But I do have an expansion finished here, and I've added a 3rd barracks. So I don't feel like he's going to be able to come back into this game, even with his Blade Master, because you see he's only got 1 burrow, so he's not going to be able to, once again, his economy not offering nearly as much as it should be, and again, he did lose a bunch of Peons as well. He needs to pull some of these Peons to gold. He does have a Voodoo Lounge now that he can buy units for, buy items with or at, but otherwise in terms of like fielding a big army. He's having trouble doing it. And now I've got the level 6 Tauren. You know, I can get Endurance Aura level 3. I can get Reincarnation. I think I actually do just get Endurance Aura leveled up to 3 here. I haven't picked the skill yet. But I'm nowhere near dying, so yeah, I just go ahead and drop that into Endurance Aura. I don't feel like he's ever going to threaten to kill the Tauren. I've got this Periapt of health, you know, extra 150. I got the Ring of Protection. And again, I'm at pretty much, you know, over 1,000 hit points. I've got 6 armor. So, pretty much feel secure here. And we are going to see, I'm going to stop this here for the epic finale here. And I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the heroes there. So, we're going to watch this from my perspective with the Fog of War off, just because it was so amusing to me to see this. It happened. I didn't actually know that it was going to line up this way, but I see that a Shadow Hunter here at low hit points. I'm like, okay, I can probably snipe that with a Shockwave. I'm going to get the boom, boom, double kill. I got the Blade Master and the Shadow Hunter in one Shockwave. Didn't even see the Blade Master. Just collateral damage, and that is why you got to go Tauren Chieftain, because, I mean, who doesn't love to accidentally kill a level 3 Blade Master? I mean, that you can't even see. I mean, that's just like the dream. So, you know, you just want to go for those situations. It's not about consistency or anything crazy like that. You know, with the Blade Master. No. You want to go for, you want to go big or go home. That's what they say. So, you know, you think Michael Jordan got to where he was by like the most efficient training and everything like that? No, he just went hard, you know, and no rules. Just, I don't know what I'm talking about, but just making a joke here. So, but anyway, I thought that was a pretty funny ending. The replay, you know, the play style and sort of micro, a little bit wonky from both sides. I think his strategy sort of set him up to where micro wasn't really helping him all that much. You notice he was getting some saves on his heroes. He was sort of pulling off the sort of really aggressive solo hero creeping. But the problem was, no amount of, I mean, obviously, you know, if he out micros me by, you know, some crazy amount, you know, if I'm like, you know, 70 APM or something, he's 200. You know, obviously that's going to represent a substantial difference in skill level, and you might be able to exploit that, you know, regardless of your units. But when you've got, you know, 3-4 Wind Riders as like your main core of your army in terms of units, and the opponent just has like 8 Headhunters with Endurance Aura, and on top of that he's got another, you know, 4 Grunts, you're just gonna have trouble sort of getting any kind of map control, you know, putting pressure on their army. You know, sure, he can go run at my burrows, but if my army's there, which, you know, the one time that he actually did run at the burrows, he didn't really do much there. Was, again, I think twofold. One is my army was there, and the other is my burrow positioning was pretty good, so that worked out pretty well. But, you know, that's really all you can do, or, you know, really aggressive creeping with the Wind Rider. So that's really what his options were. In terms of fighting the Headhunters, straight up, not really, wasn't really going to happen. The Shadow Hunter maybe wasn't the best hero choice in that scenario, because if your enemy is massing, not that Hex is, you know, really much weaker, but there's certain heroes, you know, AoE spells are, I think, largely more effective against massed up Headhunters, because you can really ignore the Grunts. If you can just deal with the Headhunters before you start losing Wind Riders, you know, that's going to be sort of important. You know, if I don't have any Headhunters, or if I've got, you know, like 1 to 3 Headhunters, and you've got, you know, 4 Wind Riders and a Blade Master stacked with items, then I really just can't fight you. I just have to run TP. You're probably going to lose Grunts trying to run from that and stuff. So, in terms of strategy, you know, you maybe should have went for like a Panda, Alchemist, Tauren, Chieftain second for some AoE abilities. But again, you don't really always know obviously it's a little bit random to run into mass tier 1 orc versus orc. You know, certainly that strategy has weaknesses, but I would say that weakness isn't really headhunters. Sorry, it isn't really wind riders. Even though, you know, they do die pretty quickly to the Blade Master, and obviously to grunts. But if you skip tier 1, you really sort of limit yourself in terms of like counterplay. You know, you're gonna have unarmored Kodos. You're gonna have I think it's medium armor for the Wind Riders, or light armor. Yeah, is it light armor? I don't know, but it takes extra damage from piercing. So, you know, piercing damage is going to do extra to Kodos. It's going to do extra to Wind Riders, extra to Bat Riders. And if you go for casters instead, all casters, of course, are unarmored, so they're going to take extra from headhunters. And then you've got raiders as your other option, and they take extra from normal damage, which is going to be the grunts. So you're sort of limiting yourself, and especially if you go 2 bestiaries, you're not going to have access to any casters. You're not going to have access to grunts or headhunters, and yeah, so you really limit yourself. And again, I don't know if his strategy would have been stronger versus a standard build order. I sort of suspect not, because, you know, standard build order will have access to Bat Riders and Raiders, potentially, not to mention Spirit Walkers actually will be able to hit the air units for extra damage as well, which, you know, they're going to be totally useless. And then Hex, you know, is, if you don't have Disenchant, Hex pretty much can shut down, you know, multiple Wind Riders, shut their damage to 0. You know, not to mention if he goes for Serpent Wards, it's going to be another counter avenue there. So, but anyway, all that stuff being said, pretty epic ending there with the double kill. Of course, you're going to level up really quick with a solo hero, even though I didn't tech pretty much the whole game. Units killed, he actually ended up killing more than me. Again, I made a lot of headhunters, spent a lot of time fighting in and around his base with towers and burrows, which generally does not bode well. And again, I spent a lot of time attacking buildings, which, again, obviously are not units in that sense. But he also killed more buildings than me. Or no, excuse me, that's produced. I was going to say, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, he didn't kill any buildings. And I killed 16, apparently, so that was good. But largest army was pretty close, actually, which is a little surprising. I was 6 food ahead at my sort of greatest point. So that, you know, that doesn't really look like that much. But in a lot of the battles, I was substantially ahead in terms of units. You know, he had the second hero, which is going to be 5 food. So that sort of takes away, you know, not that the hero is useless or anything, but in terms of like unit count, you know, I was still ahead of him there. So units produced 21 extra units from me there. So again, I did get an expansion, so some of those are going to be peons, but other than that, pretty good way to finish it out. Pretty much went, I wouldn't say according to plan, but, you know, in terms of what I need to do, I didn't want to get into some sort of hit and run game against Raiders and Wind Riders. I didn't really want to let him start creeping with Wind Riders. You know, there's fountains everywhere, and, you know, there's all kinds of big creep camps that you can take with that hero combination and unit combination. Not to mention, like I say, I don't want to start losing burrows to Wind Riders, because once that starts happening, you can get into some serious trouble keeping up with them in unit production, and, you know, that's obviously not going to work out. So, but anyway, this is going to be the end of this audio. Hopefully you got a lot of enjoyment out of it. Try to throw some humor in there. I heard my horrible rendition of one line of a Guns N' Roses song, and I'll have to work on that. But at any rate, this is ScryMind signing out.